Welcome to the PAPAA. My name's Amy Martin and I'm one of the course managers on the Postgraduate Award of Proficiency in Assessment for Access Arrangements. This is a short session to introduce you to the qualification. First of all, who are we? Communicate Ed and Include Ed work closely together to offer this accredited training. We focus on training educational professionals who are working in the area of special needs, and we aim to provide courses that are high quality and value for money. The PAPAA course will lead to accreditation, which meets the Joint Council for Qualifications, or the JCQ, their criteria for an assessor for access arrangements in general qualifications. This is a postgraduate Level 7 course, and it gives a qualification in individual assessment as required by the JCQ. The PAPAA is externally moderated and endorsed by the CIEA, and we provide highly practical experience of administrating the access arrangements process alongside the theoretical knowledge to carry out assessments. What we really want to do is equip you to carry out your role when you're actually doing it in your centre. The criteria for a course to qualify as an access arrangements assessor is that it must cover the theoretical basis for psychometric tests. And there are lots of terms here on screen that you'd become familiar with as we go through the actual training. The course must also teach you to use age-appropriate, nationally standardised tests. It must cover the administration of individual tests of reading, writing and spelling, the selection and use of tests of cognitive skills, and the ethical administration of testing, and knowing in the end when you're out of your depth and when you need to refer to another professional, which we all are at one stage or another, no matter how qualified we are. In addition to the criteria that a course has to cover, there's also some criteria that professionals have to meet. We must have a thorough understanding of the JCQ regulations, and we'll cover that in depth during the PAPAA course. They must be familiar with the Equality Act of 2010. Again, we'll cover that in the course. You also need to hold a qualification to teach and make recommendations for secondary age or adult learners who have got learning difficulties. And that's a quote from the JCQ documentation. We can't cover that, so we can only accept people who have got a teaching qualification. In most cases, people have qualified teacher status or a Level 5 qualification in teaching students with specific learning difficulties. There are other qualifications that we can also accept, so please do contact us if you don't fit neatly into these criteria, and we can have a look at your particular situation to see whether we could accept you onto the course. So what are the course delivery options? Well, we've got three options for the PAPAA: the PAPAA On Demand, the PAPAA Hybrid and the PAPAA Live. And I'll go through each of these in a bit more detail now. The PAPAA On Demand involves online individual learning. We have an online learning environment, or OLE, and the assignments and the taught sessions, which are video presentations, are accessed here. The video presentations can be replayed and reviewed as many times as you want. The course tutor is shown on the screen, and you're given a link to the course materials, which include the PowerPoint slides and the handouts, so you can print these out and make notes on them. You can access the materials in your own time at your own pace. Longer blocks of time can be used, so you could perhaps spend a whole day on it, or you could break it down into shorter periods. It's really up to you to see what fits into your lifestyle and your work commitments. The PAPAA Hybrid is a combination of webinar training and online individual learning. You start the course with 3 consecutive webinar training days for Unit 1, where you cover all of the core Unit 1 taught sessions, and you begin all of the Unit 1 assignments. And these webinar days are live over Zoom with a course tutor. And then the Unit 2 taught sessions are accessed through our online video presentations. The PAPAA Live is focused on webinar training. As with the PAPAA Hybrid, you start the course with these 3 consecutive webinar training days for Unit 1, and that's where you cover all of the core Unit 1 taught sessions and you begin all of the Unit 1 assignments. Again, these webinar days are live over Zoom with a course tutor. In addition, later on in the course, you'll have access to 3 consecutive webinar training days for Unit 2, where you cover all of the core Unit 2 taught sessions and you begin all of the Unit 2 assignments. For both the PAPAA Hybrid and the PAPAA Live, you still have access to the online learning environment, where you can access the assignments for the course and review any sessions that you want to access again. There are additional fees for the PAPAA Hybrid and the PAPAA Live, which cover the additional cost of the webinar training days, and you can find the prices for these on our website. For all delivery options, you'll be allocated an assessor who will support you through your assignments, and we have admin support from the course managers and an online forum where you can discuss assignments with other PAPAA students. Let's move on to the content of the course. Unit 1 is about understanding the principles of psychometric testing, which includes an introduction to the principles of educational testing and the administration of standardised tests that are suitable for use in access arrangements. There will be a whole range of different tests that we give you information about. There's a list of the abbreviations here, and if you do go on to access the course, these abbreviations and the full names of the tests will become familiar to you. You won't have to cover all of these. Some of them are compulsory and others are optional, depending on what you're interested in. Unit 2 is all about understanding the Joint Council for Qualifications regulations, which are called Access Arrangements and Reasonable Adjustments, and we refer to that as the AARA. And actually putting those into place and applying for those within your centre. The rationale, the thinking behind access arrangements, and the types of access arrangements that are available. These will be arrangements appropriate for candidates with a whole range of difficulties, as you'll see from this slide. We don't just cover learning difficulties, we really want to equip you to be able to help any students in your centre who may need access arrangements, regardless of what their difficulty is. We want to equip you to compile and record appropriate evidence as required by the JCQ. You'll have a look at case studies and take part in workshops. You'll be trained to screen large groups of students, but also to assess individuals. We will enable you to learn how to apply for access arrangements through the Access Arrangements online system. You'll look at roles, responsibilities, and systems within the centre. And we'll have a look at the Equality Act and its influence on examinations. We also look at ethical issues, data protection and confidentiality, which is very important in this area where we're collecting a lot of data about individual candidates. If you can give a few hours a week to the course, then you should be able to complete easily within the 9 months, which is what we encourage you to do. If you're working in a centre, then you should be able to get some time off to study. We do have students who are able to work more intensely on the course, and we will pair them with an assessor who is able to accommodate this so they can complete in less time. So how will you be assessed? Well, there are online assessments on the principles of psychometric testing and also on the JCQ regulations and procedures. We ask you to carry out a videoed assessment with an individual candidate where you're administering and marking a range of different tests. Your assessor will mark that to make sure that you've administered all the tests completely accurately. We do have a library of tests you can borrow from for a fee to cover our costs if you don't have many tests in your centre. You also have to complete an exercise on screening a large group and considering some case studies. One of the assignments involves recording evidence on the JCQ forms, and another one involves applying for access arrangements using the Access Arrangements online format. You also write 2 short essays explaining psychometric testing and looking at the Equality Act and its influence on examinations. So who is the PAPAA course for? The course is designed for professionals who are wanting to carry out access arrangements assessments. In addition, you may be required to oversee the whole access arrangements process within your centre. And we're assuming that, particularly if you are based in a centre, you'll be required to support colleagues who are also working on access arrangements. The PAPAA qualification is at level 7, master's level, as that's required by the JCQ. How do you apply for the course? Firstly, you'll need to download an application form from our website and complete and return that form to us with supporting documentation. The on-demand version of the PAPAA has start dates available at the beginning of each month. Have a look at our website for PAPAA Hybrid and PAPAA Live webinar dates. Please see our website for the current fees. These include registration and certification, a login to our online learning environment, marking of assessments and feedback, and reasonable access to your assessor via email. If there's one particular area that you're finding difficult, your assessor may arrange to have a phone call or video call with you to carry out a tutorial on that area. The fee also includes technical support with accessing the videos, where necessary within 24 hours on weekdays, but it is very rare that people have issues with this. Access to our online discussion forum is also included, as are postage costs of returning your work where necessary after marking. So if you've had to post something to your assessor and they need to post it back, that postage is covered. What other costs are there? You'll need the examiner books for the tests that we cover in Unit 1 so that you've got in front of you what's shown on screen during the video presentations. The cost of those booklets is just under £60 and we can send an invoice for these. We specifically design our online presentations so that you don't need access to the full manuals or full test kits for every single test that we cover on the course, as we show the essential pages on the screen with the permission of the publishers. There are also some set texts for the course, and these are around £25. And there'll be postage costs of actually sending any work to your assessor for marking, although a lot of that's actually done via email, so these will be minimal. When you come to do your videoed assessment of a candidate, you'll need full test kits in order to carry out the testing, as these include all of the materials that you would need to administer and score the tests. Hopefully you'll have some tests in your centre, but if you don't, you'll either need to buy these, or as I said previously, we do have a library of tests that you can borrow from for a fee to cover our costs. Do remember that purchasing the tests won't just be for the duration of the PAPAA course. When you're a qualified access arrangements assessor, you will need a battery of tests to use in your role. The final cost not covered by the course fee would be for any additional assessments and tutorials if required. For example, if you needed to do more than one videoed assessment, there'd be an additional fee for the marking of this, as we're required to show that you can administer and mark tests with 100% accuracy. We allow for a reasonable amount of tutorial time within the course fee, but on very rare occasions, sometimes students need more than the time that is allocated, and on these occasions there might be an additional charge that would go to your assessor for that additional time. If you have any more questions, please have a look at our website. You can see the address on screen now. There are also some frequently asked questions on our website, so you also may be able to find the answer that you're looking for there. If you've still got any questions after this, do email us on the email address given on screen. Thank you for listening.